Garden is situated at the heart of the city of Singapore and demonstrates the evolution of a British tropical colonial botanic garden, from a pleasure garden in the English landscape style to a colonial economic garden with facilities for horticultural and botanical research, to a modern world-class botanic garden, scientific institution and place of conservation, recreation, and education. The Singapore Botanic Garden is a well-defined cultural landscape which includes a rich variety of historic landscape features, plantings, and buildings that clearly demonstrate the evolution of the Botanic Garden since its establishment in 1859. Through its well-preserved landscape design and continuity of purpose, the Singapore Botanic Garden is an outstanding example of a rich tropical botanic garden which has also played a key role in advancing scientific knowledge, particularly in the field of tropical botany and horticulture, including the development of plantation rubber.
Come and experience going on a trail up a tropical mountain. See the different types of vegetation, from lowland forests all the way up to the high elevation montane forests. Throughout this trail, you can find a wide range of orchids and other plants. Many of these species are rare or becoming increasingly endangered in the wild. So it's important that we, at the Singapore Botanic Gardens, continue to conserve them. The lowland habitats feature plants from the Neram forests of Malaysia and the lowland streams of Singapore and the region. Large riverine trees that arch over meandering streams in these moist tropical forests are rich in epiphytic orchid diversity. Mid-elevation orchids and plants from Central and South America can be found here. Explore the large collection of bromeliads.
Hi, my name is Zinda Abidir P. Ramos and I am going to talk about the criterion for making Singapore Botanic Gardens included in the World Heritage List. For a property to be included to the World Heritage List, the World Heritage Committee must find that meets one or more of the following criteria.
And also stated before, according to Operational Guideline 2012, in order to be deemed a World Heritage Site, the location must be of outstanding universal value. Demonstrating international significance, it must transcend national boundaries and be of common importance for present and future generation of all humanity. According to our research, that there are 10 criterion for the selection to be listed in the World Heritage Site. The Singapore Botanic Garden is listed as one of the World Heritage Sites because it meets two criterion among the 10 selection. The criterion 2, which is to exhibit an important interchange of human values over a span of time or within a cultural area of the world on developments in architecture or technology, monumental arts, town planning, or landscape design.
Criterion 2 because the Singapore Botanic Gardens has been a center for plant research in Southeast Asia since the 19th century, contributing significantly to the expansion of plantation rubber in the 20th century and continues to play a leading role in the exchange of ideas, knowledge, and expertise in tropical botany and horticultural sciences. The Singapore Botanic Gardens also provides the condition for their planting, development, and distribution throughout much of Southeast Asia and elsewhere.
And other criterion that the Singapore Botanic Gardens meet is the criterion 4, to be an outstanding example of a type of building, architectural or technological ensemble, or landscape which illustrates a significant stage in human history.
4 because the Singapore Botanic Gardens is an outstanding example of a British tropical colonial botanic garden, and it is notable for its preserved landscape design and continuity of purpose since its inception.
Singapore Botanic Gardens is a popular tourist destination attracting millions of visitors each year. However, like any other tourist destination, it has its fair share of environmental, social, and economic issues. So let's start with the environmental issues. First is the habitat loss. With the expansion of the gardens, natural habitats may be lost. Next is the soil erosion. High foot traffic can lead to soil erosion, which can damage plants and disrupt natural habitats. Next is the water management. Managing the water usage in the gardens can be challenging, especially during the dry periods. Biodiversity loss. The introduction of non-native plant species can lead to the displacement of native species. Now let's proceed to the social issues. First is the overcrowding. During peak seasons, the gardens can become overcrowded, leading to congestion and inconvenience for visitors. Next is noise pollution. Increased visitors' numbers can lead to increased noise levels, which can disturb the garden's tranquility and wildlife. Next, safety concerns. Visitors may engage in dangerous activities such as climbing trees or feeding animals, which can threaten their safety. Next, accessibility. The garden's terrain may pose a challenge for elderly or disabled visitors. Lastly, the economic issues. First is the infrastructure maintenance. Maintaining the garden's infrastructure such as walkways and buildings can be expensive. Next is the revenue generation. The gardens need to generate enough revenue through ticket sales and donations to sustain its operations. Staffing. The gardens require a large staff to manage its operation, which can be expensive. Next, competition. The gardens face competition from other tourist attractions in Singapore, which can impact visitors' numbers and revenue. It's worth noting that the Singapore Botanic Gardens has implemented various measures to address these issues, such as sustainable water management practices and wildlife conservation efforts. However, there is always room for improvement, and the gardens continue to evolve to meet the changing needs of its visitors while preserving its natural beauty and heritage.
Singapore Botanic Garden has been an important center for science, research, and plant conservation, notably in connection within the cultivation of rubber plantation in Southeast Asia since 1875. The protection of areas, buildings, and features of conservation value within the nominated property are protected by a range of statutory and non-statutory designation. The principal legislation that regulates conservation and development in Singapore is the Planning Act. Under the legislation, any proposal to develop land or to carry out works in a conservation area is required to obtain planning and conservation permission under the Act before development or work is carried out. The next program is the conservation. The conservation of the living collection is part of an ongoing and evolving program which seeks to ensure that research and conservation needs are met. Keynote that specimens' heritage or horticultural value are conserved, the historic character and structure of the landscape is maintained, for a quality visitor experiences is provided. And the last program is the historic buildings of Botanic Gardens are inspected on a quinquennial basis and subject to ongoing maintenance. The ECOMOS considers inspection that are undertaken once every 5 years to be inadequate as a conservation measure. In conclusion, the Botanic Garden is protected through the Planning Act of Singapore. A management plan has been prepared with the aim of ensuring effective protection, conservation, presentation, and transmission of the attributes of the site's outstanding universal value.